Let's talk about storms. So a storm is a violent disturbance of the atmosphere that creates dangerous conditions on Earth's surface. There are 4 types of storms. We'll be discussing each one. There are mid-latitude cyclones, thunderstorms, tornadoes, and hurricanes. Let's begin with mid-latitude cyclones. So the mid-latitude cyclone represents a storm that covers any region or any area between Florida and Alaska. That's pretty much the entire United States. And this storm system involves a low pressure center with counterclockwise rotation and inward airflow that forms when cold air or cold front overtakes warm air at a warm front. And the result is quickly upwardly rising warm air. This eventually will produce what we call an occluded front. On a weather map, this iconic shape is known as a comma cloud. You can see it here. And that's that low pressure center of counterclockwise rotation. And this is a major weather producer for mid-latitude states. And during our winter season, these are the storms that bring nor'easters and blizzards to the East Coast, as they involve continuous precipitation events. Our next storm are thunderstorms. And thunderstorms are heavy rainstorms accompanied by thunder and lightning. And they involve a type of cloud called a thunderstorm cloud. There's actually a more scientific name, which I'll give you later. And it's only these thunderstorm clouds that have enough up and down movement inside of them that can produce the precipitation that's associated with some thunderstorms called hail. Not all thunderstorms have hail, but the ones that typically do are only created from the type of cloud that's associated with them. In all cases, thunderstorms involve the movement of upward lifting warm air. Here's a quick video about thunderstorms.
The typical thunderstorm cloud is the cumulonimbus, or thundercloud. Like many clouds, the cumulonimbus develops when warm air rises from the surface of the Earth. As the warm air rises, it cools, and water vapor condenses into minute cloud droplets. In a thunderstorm, the updraft of warm air is rapid, and the cloud builds up quickly. When the thundercloud has grown to maturity, water and ice droplets come together and precipitation begins. The onset of a thunderstorm almost always includes strong gusts of wind and heavy rain. But the most dangerous and spectacular of all thunderstorm features is lightning.
They're actually the same thing. Thunder and lightning are created at the exact same time. The sound of thunder is the rapid expansion of air as lightning kind of moves through it and causes the air to heat up. So that's what you're hearing. So thunderstorms are responsible for a lot of different hazards, which include flooding and hail. But it's really the lightning that's the most dangerous. You hear about it all the time, people getting struck, people, being in situations where lightning damages parts of the house or, downs power lines. It's during a thunderstorm that it's important to know some basic safety rules. Like, number 1, don't be the highest object in the area that you're in. Don't stand underneath a tree. If you're in a car, that's perfectly okay. Cars are actually safe because they have a metal frame, and that metal frame helps neutralize the charge. But if you're inside, stay away from electrical devices, anything plugged in. In addition, copper pipes, stay away from those. Generally, though, lightning works one of 3 ways. So in a typical thunderstorm cloud, as shown here, the updrafts and downdrafts generate static electricity, just like when you rub your feet on a carpet and touch a metal doorknob, right? That's the same mechanism that produces lightning. Crazy. You can have cloud to air lightning, where the charge builds up and discharges to the surrounding air. You can have cloud-to-cloud lightning, where different parts of the cloud have different charges, and you have that discharge, so lightning jumps from one place to another. Or you can have cloud-to-ground, which is probably the most common, the most notable, which we see all the time, is where charge builds up inside of a cloud and it kind of explodes outwards down to the ground to find a neutral source, which is a lightning strike. In all cases, lightning is super hot and super dangerous. It has a current that exceeds anything that we can probably, normally take. Although there are many survivors of lightning strikes, there are many people who have died. So it is a very dangerous weather.
Thank you, George. Great question there. How does a supercell thunderstorm happen? And here's George's picture that he was holding up here, and he's got a lot going on here. Look at all the lightning that's occurring, and I think there's a lot of damage here along the ground here. Look at this tree tipping on over. And we saw a lot of damage today from the supercell thunderstorm. And what makes a supercell thunderstorm different from a typical thunderstorm is that you have a rotation involved. And here's the key, and this is why. To get a thunderstorm to form, you have to have air to rise and cool. It's hot air. Warm, moist air rises. It cools, condenses. It makes clouds and then rain. Well, then the rain falls. It brings cool air down. Okay, the water cools the air. So that updraft that's coming in, that's warm and moist, when it gets hit with the down draft of cool air, which you can sometimes get damaging surface winds, it tends to kill the updraft. If you get a thunderstorm to rotate, what happens is the wind will come on in a circular pattern. It'll rotate in, and the downdraft will be separate from the updraft. That's when a thunderstorm will continue to live, because now you're feeding it all the moisture it needs, and the damaging winds and the tornado that can then ensue will be separate from what is going on with the updraft. So that's why you'll keep these things going. Of course, you get the hail up there as well, and you get that with rotation. You need to have what we call shear in the atmosphere, wind blowing in different elevations from different areas, and you get the spin that occurs. It's actually occurring like this at the ground, then comes up like this. So the nature of the severe thunderstorm is cold, dry air aloft. Here comes the cold front. I showed you that a little while ago. That's what we had, and it's lifting that moist surface air, but it has to rotate, and then you get the thunderstorm forming. So a great question from George. Unfortunately, we had a fatality out of this particular storm system here, which is can't happen. It was a huge tornado. We're talking a half-mile wide, leaving a path some 2 miles long. And when that happens in the southeast, the problem is there's too many people living down there. And when it's happening in the Midwest, you can have it be in the open areas. But boy, when these storms happen in the southeast, which happens in January and February as the season wants to change. Florida's hot in the 80s now at warm air hitting the cold air, and that's where the problems come. Interesting, though, weather fact, 5% of all thunderstorms are damaging. 95% of all thunderstorms bring beneficial rains and cooling breezes. Unfortunately, the 5% can be bad.